Welcome back. We're live again with another live stream. Let me get the lampshade out here right quick.
Actually, I was gonna wear that as a hat.
You want to?
Yeah.
Yeah, here, let me go get it. Didn't you wear something as
That-
like
that
this
was
as a
Anthony's
hat a long
lampshade.
time ago? Yeah,
Yeah,
there
this
we
was.
go. Okay.
Hi,
So
guys.
I have
Oops. No, it didn't break.
I have my guest,
Okay.
the lamp guy here with me today. Now, seriously, this is a friend of mine, Stephen Blankenship. He's we worked together at the Chevrolet dealer years ago, and I figured it would be a great opportunity to bring him onto the show here and have him answer some of your questions for you. So, if you guys have some Chevy questions, he's your man. I'm sure there's going to be some competition between he and I, being a Ford guy and a Chevy guy. So we're probably going to put like a thumbnail
Yeah.
of arm wrestling in the video.
To which I'll win, obviously.
So, all right. First things first, as always, I'd like to catch up with the questions that people have sent us previously.
That is a
and-
great question.
So, actually, let's take this question.
This is one of the best ones I've seen, actually.
What is that question?
This one from Digital or Digitail asks, how do you keep Fords running? And I like to say, it's a combination of like miracles and just chance and things like that.
Okay. I like to think that you fix or repair them daily. I mean, you do what you tell them. No, I'm just kidding as well.
This is going great.
At least we don't generally malfunction.
Yeah.
Oh, shots fired. Shots fired.
Actually, we do have a Chevy Silverado in the driveway here that needs a PCM.
Hey, we ought to do a video on that,
Yeah, we
actually.
should.
Yeah, we'll get a video for you guys. So anyway, let's get to some questions here from over the past week that people have sent us, and we're gonna start off with Mr. Bugatti, who's he said his mom has a Ford 500 that has 2 lean codes after he changed the spark plugs and took off the intake. Like you said earlier when we looked through these comments, that's 99% chance you probably got an intake manifold gasket that didn't line up properly. There could also be some debris in there that's causing the intake to not seat on the cylinder head and causing a vacuum leak, but you've got a vacuum leak somewhere. One of the best things that you can do is take some brake cleaner or some throttle body cleaner and spray it around the intake manifold while the engine's running and monitor the engine RPM. If it starts to fluctuate when you spray around a certain area, that's where your leak's at. I would go with that. The next question we have is from Sean O'Leary. He sent this to me a week ago. It says, love your channel content. Thanks for the time and effort to make your videos. He has a 2-year-old truck, a Canyon. Wow, okay, so you got the new body style Canyon with about 22,000 miles on it. Still a baby. Anyway, I run dedicated winter tires and rims in the winter and the OEM all seasons and the rims the rest of the year. This fall when I installed the rims, all of a sudden one of the wheels started squealing with the braking, but only until the truck warms up. About 15 minutes of driving or so later. I torqued with the torque wrench to the manual specs. I don't think the rotor is bent or anything like that. Any ideas? Yeah, I've got an idea for you, and I can tell you this from personal experience. More than likely what you've had happen is when you took the wheel off of the vehicle. You ever had this happen where you take a wheel off the vehicle and the rim hits the backing plate?
Yeah.
So probably what happened is you probably bent one of your backing plates that is in back of the rotor. So what I would do is I would take your wheels off again and I would check your backing plates that are seated up against the rotor there and see if you've got a backing plate that's bent and is rubbing against the rotor. Would you agree?
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen that happen before.
Yeah, I would say so. Like you said, take it off and see if you can you might have to put it in neutral or something, but try to spin it and see if, obviously the rotor is contacting the backing plate. And then, simple fix.
I would bet you that's what it is. I wouldn't worry yourself over it.
Yeah.
Or you can just let it go and it'll go away.
Yeah, just ignore
I'm
it.
just
It'll
kidding. I
fix
wouldn't do
itself.
that. I would try to straighten out the backing plates. Okay, Dustin Neighbors. He says, Daniel, thanks for all the work you do with the videos. They're great. I have a 2005 Mustang with a 4-liter and the thermostat is starting to stick, causing the engine to not warm up fully. Yeah, that's going to happen this time of year. We had about -7 here was the coldest I saw in St. Louis at one point. That's pretty cold for the St. Louis area. I know it has the crazy housing leak. Do you recommend replacing the whole thing or just the top cover? Oh, the whole thing. Yeah, definitely replace the whole thing because what you're going to find happen is that's a plastic thermostat housing, and if you replace one and not the other, the bottom part of it's going to leak. Spend the extra money, replace the whole thing. I've actually got a video on YouTube of how you can do that.
So you said it's plastic.
Yeah.
Do they have by chance a metal one like aftermarket?
I haven't seen metal ones yet. I'm sure. I would imagine somebody out there has got a metal one somewhere, but I don't know for sure.
Okay.
I usually go to Rock Auto and buy a Motorcraft part, and they're an entire plastic housing. They usually last about 150,000 miles, so you should be fine. All right, let's go on to the transmission issue with a Ford 500 that Leo is having. He wrote us an email and said, I have an '05 Ford 500 with about 130,000 miles, but for this year, the transmission, I think after driving it for more than 30 minutes, when you try to accelerate, especially for passing on the highway, it seems to get confused as to what gear it should go into. So I have to let the gas pedal go back into gear and it goes normal again. Any suggestions? I would change the fluid and the filter.
Yeah. Always a good starting point.
That's generally what you're going to find is the fluid and the filter are going to start to get old. The filter's going to get a little clogged. I would change your filter and I would change the fluid, and that should help. Yeah. My '07 F-150 did the same thing. It had a shudder whenever it downshifted from overdrive into third gear. I changed the transmission fluid and filter, and that fixed it. What do you think about like a Lucas additive or anything?
I mean, you could try it. I mean, really, that's the easiest things to do. Kind of start with the easy things first. Kind of go from there. I don't know a whole lot about the Lucas additives. I mean, have you tried them before?
I have, and I've definitely seen it make a difference in engine noise levels on more worn out engines, but it's one thing is for sure, it's not going to hurt anything, so you've got nothing to lose by trying it. I would definitely give it a shot.
And then next step, obviously, check for codes, things like that. If you got any codes, that'll probably point you in the right direction. But
right. And generally, when you have a transmission set a trouble code, it's going to set like a P0700 in the engine control module, so you'll know if there's something wrong there.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Chris Gibson sent us a message. I know this guy's been watching for quite a while. He says, hey, I hope you're doing well. I have a problem with my friend's '04 Jeep Grand Cherokee. It has no heat from time to time. It has a 4.7 engine. Every time I drive the Jeep or try to look at it for her, it's putting out good scorching hot heat. But when she drives it, at times it's putting out cold air. Like for instance, this morning she went to drive it to the gym, it was putting out great heat, but when she came back, or when she went to leave the gym to come home, it was putting out cold air. He said he's put new blend doors in it, new actuators, radiator cap, thinks it's maybe computer related, but not sure on that. Anyways, it sounds to me like you might have a head gasket that's starting to blow. I know this is kind of a long shot, but the fact that it's intermittent, you get heat, you don't get heat. If you've done all the blend doors and the actuators and all that, we've taken care of that problem. It sounds to me like you're getting air in the system somewhere. That's why I think it's a head gasket issue. If you blow a head gasket, you're going to push engine compression, exhaust gases into the cooling system. Try this. Pop the coolant reservoir cap off after you've run it and got it nice and hot, and check to see if you have exhaust gas smells in the coolant reservoir. If you do, you probably got a blown head gasket, and that's what's causing your problem. All right. Evan Warren sent us a question about a 2007 Chevrolet Express with a 6-liter. The vehicle has about 275,000 miles, and he has a couple problems. The first is that when he starts the vehicle when it's cold, one lifter will tap and the other will go away when the engine warms up. I want to know if it will damage anything or should I just live with it. The other problem is that when the battery is a bit low or cold outside, the starter will spin, and then after I let go of the key, the starter starts winding down and it will catch the ring gear and grind. After it spins and grinds once, it always starts. I never have this problem once it has been running. When I bought the vehicle, a new starter and a new flex plate had been installed. I have cleaned and checked the connections at the battery and starter, and the battery checks out great on the carbon pile load tester. Any thoughts? Why don't you tackle the lifter issue? Because I know you've dealt with this before on your truck.
Yeah, so I guess he was saying that the lifter will tap and go away when the engine warms up. I mean, I haven't really had this issue with my truck.
Didn't you put transmission fluid in it at one point?
My truck has a little bit of an oil consumption problem. It's 2002 Silverado. It's got 205,000 miles on it. 5.3. Sometimes what can happen with these is, yeah, the lifters can get a little noisy. You could try running like a trans fluid in there. So next time you change the oil, do like 5 quarts of engine oil, a quart of transmission fluid. Transmission fluid has a lot of detergents in it. So if there's any, say in the lifter somewhere there's like some sludge or something, it can help to clean that out. So it'll get caught in the filter. So next time you change the oil, you have nice clean parts in your engine. And you can always try that. Honestly, sometimes at 275,000 miles, they start to get a little wear on them. So if it's cold and it goes away, and it's not too loud or excessive, and it goes away when the engine warms up, it's most likely not too much of an issue to worry about. Obviously, if you start having a misfire or something like that, it's going to become a problem. But generally, what are your thoughts?
I agree. And the other thing that came to mind while he was talking about this is if you guys have ever been to those auto parts stores where Lucas has their little the little stand with the 4 gears in it, and you spin the little crank, and you see the oil with the Lucas additive climb all the way up to the 4th gear with ease, while plain engine oil just kind of sits there and doesn't get past the 2nd gear. That is a good example of what's going on inside of your engine, and you might want to try some Lucas additive in that vehicle. It may help a little bit, but the fact is you got a van with 275,000 miles on it. Things are going to wear out eventually, and you might want to put some new lifters in it. It is a big job. You're going to have to pull the cylinder heads. But if you got 275,000 miles out of that thing before it started getting some lifter issue, I'd say, live with it until it becomes an issue that you have to fix. As far as the starter goes, it sounds like if they put a new starter and a flex plate in it before you bought it, my theory is the last thing worked on is the first thing checked. It sounds to me like it may be a bad flex plate, maybe it wasn't installed properly, maybe the starter wasn't installed properly, or it could be the wrong starter. It's hard to say. Generally, when it grinds like that and then it catches the next time with no problem, it's a worn out starter. But if it has a brand new starter, I would double check to make sure that the starter and the flex plate were installed properly.
And you always got to think too about, when you buy something, and I've seen this multiple times, I'm sure you have too. Someone's like, oh, I just replaced that, or oh, I just did that. And it's like, well, first of all, did they really? Second of all,
right.
Who did the job? Third of all, what kind of parts did they use?
Right,
did they use like a real cheapo, remanufactured starter or something that maybe the Bendix is kind of bent or something, so it's not letting the starter wheel engage, so just some things to keep in mind.
That's a really, really good point too. I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of people, especially when you go to buy something that's on Craigslist, will say, oh yeah, new engine, new transmission. Okay, show me the service records. Service records, guys, these are so important when it comes to someone having claimed that they had some work done. Check to see where it was done. Do they offer a warranty? Was it a backyard mechanic? No offense to us backyard mechanics, there's some really good ones out there. Or was it done at a reputable shop like a Dobbs, where there's multiple ones across the country that you can go to if you have any problems? That's the kind of stuff you want to figure out. Okay, Michael Lemke has a question for us. He said he's watched the live stream after it was live and wanted to say thanks for answering his questions, but he has another question. It's regarding a 2005 Explorer with a 4-liter V6.
These Ford problems.
Hey now, the GM problems are coming. There's one sitting out there in the driveway. His engine is fine, but when he goes over a bump, a noticeable squeaking noise comes from the front suspension, followed by a bouncing feeling in the cab. Is there something wrong with the suspension? If so, what might need to be replaced? He's got 138,000 miles. He's also got an Escape with 95,000 miles, and the rear drum brakes as the car is... he says he has rear drum brakes as the car is front-wheel drive. Every time he takes his foot off the brake pedal, it makes a very annoying squeaking sound. Okay, I think we can answer both of these. If you've got a problem with the suspension that's making squeaking and bouncing noises, I would check your struts. You got 138,000 miles on it. More than likely, your struts are worn out and those shock absorbers just have to be replaced. On an 05 Explorer, I bet you it's a really easy job. Unbolt them, bolt them up, and put some new ones on there. And just make sure no one has sprayed PP Blaster on there and tried to sell you some shocks.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding.
True story, by the way.
Yeah. So easy test on the shocks too is, you know, if you're thinking you got some worn out struts, bounce test. You know, get on the front of the thing and you know, push the front end of the car
I
down.
think they call it like Johnson.
Yeah, jounce the front end. You know,
Jounce,
just
jounce.
get there and jounce on it, let off, and if it bounces up and down 3 or 4 times, struts are blown.
Yep.
You know, so it should what, come down, up, down, and then
It should
stop.
go, yeah, like what you said, down, up, down, and stop right there. If
Yeah.
it keeps going, you ever see these cars that after they go over the railroad tracks are doing this for the next 5 minutes down the, maybe not 5 minutes, maybe more like the next 10,
Probably
15
like 5 minutes,
seconds.
usually in the city. So yeah, and then in my opinion too, on the brakes, so the rear drum, squeaking noise every time we let off the brake pedal. More than likely, what that's going to be is, so your rear shoes rest on the, I don't know what they're called, on the backing plate. There's those little raised portions. The brake shoes don't rest on the entire backing plate.
Right.
More than likely,
Right.
probably what you got is you just need to lube up the contact points of where the shoes meet the backing plate.
See, I personally don't like drum brakes for that reason that you're talking about right there. They're more complex, they're harder to work on. They do last a little bit longer, especially on the rear wheels, because the rear wheels are doing so much less braking than the fronts are. But the issue is water gets in there, it can't get back out very easily, and things just rust up. So like what he said, take everything apart, clean it, lubricate it, and that should fix your problem. I think you'll be all right.
I'm gonna get a Chevy.
No comment. Okay, Andrew Gonzalez sent us an email. He says, "Hey Dan, I hope you're doing well. My name's Andrew. I have a 2001 2500 Chevy Suburban with the 8.1 V8. Wow,
Woo! Big glob.
collector's item there. Nice. It's got 195,000 miles on it, and I have an issue when using light throttle applications such as going up a driveway. What'll happen is when I give it light throttle around 1200 RPM and then let the RPMs drop down to about 400 or even 300 and then they come back up. But sometimes it stalls. That's when it's in gear, driver reverse. It does the same thing when it's in park and neutral, except it drops significantly, but it'll recover and go back to idle. What could it be? I've read it could be fuel injectors, cam position sensor, or the Spider fuel rail injection system. Yes, yes, and yes, but before you do that, try this first. Take some throttle body cleaner and spray it in the idle air control valve as well as your throttle body assembly itself. Because what happens is you get carbon buildup that can clog up the idle air control valve and the throttle body, and as a result, you won't get as much airflow into the engine as you should be to maintain a proper idle. So what happens is the engine's starved of air, and then it stalls because it doesn't get enough air to keep it running. I personally saw this fix a 2002 Silverado and a 2005 Silverado. Same exact problems that you described. Fixed them by cleaning the throttle body with throttle body cleaner.
100%.
Yep. Hunt it.
Also,
Where's the hunter symbol? All right, I'll put it in there.
yeah, so, and then also don't do light throttle applications. The 8.1's a big old thirsty monster.
Yeah, the
wide
8
open throttle or nothing.
8.1 likes to run. And you know, on that topic too, even the 7.3s, I've noticed if you give a 7.3 diesel, in particular the one in the Excursion, very light throttle for like a minute or two. This happened to me. I found this problem out as I was following my dad back driving a tractor. He was only going about like 8 miles an hour. So I'm barely on the accelerator at all. It was like that for 2 or 3 minutes. Then I let off the accelerator for a stoplight and the engine stalled. It kind of worried me, but it started right back up and ran perfectly. I did it again and got it to stall again. Still to this day don't know why that happens, but like you said, they like to run. They're built for towing. Those are engines that are built to run under a lot of throttle, but clean your throttle body. That should fix it.
Yeah, 100%.
That AAA dude.
Dude.
sent us-
Dude.
I like how his name has DOOD, just like my license plate. That's
Yes.
awesome. I love it. Okay, this AAA dude is, of course, a AAA tow driver. He's wondering, do we know what to do, how to fix the death wobble in a 2017 F550?
So I've actually heard of this on a couple of the 2017 larger trucks.
Okay.
Had one at work where same thing, only like 20,000-30,000 miles on it. And their fix claimed supposedly from the dealership that they're getting an aftermarket steering stabilizer added on these things.
No kidding.
And now, granted, I don't know
So-
if this is fully legit because I've only heard it as one event, but they said they have it all the time and Ford supposedly approves. You know,
An
and
aftermarket part.
supposedly yes. And this is not
Wow.
my words. This is coming from some dealership, and I'm not going to name the name, but that's what they said they did, and apparently
And
it
it
takes
fixed
care
the
of it.
problem.
Now,
Wow.
as far as everything I know about death wobble, though, you know, you either have a loose front end part, you know, you got an alignment that's out, or
Right.
something else going on. So,
But on a 2017, I mean,
that's exactly
it's
it.
still a pretty new vehicle. Unless it was like it had been damaged and it's been repaired recently and something was left loose. But the comment you made there about that one dealer in particular actually fixing them with that kind of reminds me of the spark plug issues in the 5.4s out of the Motorcraft plugs are still to this day getting stuck in the 5.4 engines, whereas Bosch has come up with a fix to that with their spark plugs. I guess, I don't know what it is with Ford. Sometimes they just can't fix their stuff. It's like, really? It's like the EcoBoost engines where people are installing aftermarket catch cans to fix the misfire problem. But in my defense, the Chevy Equinoxes are having the same problem now.
Which, with what?
They're getting water and oil buildup in the intercoolers, and then when you
Oh.
step on the accelerator, that turbocharged air, you've got so much more air flowing through now, it picks up that moisture and that oil and forces it into the combustion chamber. It starts a misfire, goes into limp mode until it clears itself up. In severe cases, I haven't seen this recently, but I have heard of a couple severe cases where so much water was pushed into the engine that it hydrolocked it and shot a rod through the block. But I've only heard of that once or twice.
Hashtag just Ford things.
Hashtag GM catching up. Somebody's got to pave the way. You know, we got to be the pioneers here that are. We'll smooth the rocks out for you guys, so you guys have a nice little trail to go down. Okay. Levi K has a question about his 1988 Corvette. He said he had third and fourth gear go out in his 700 R4 transmission and wondered what things he could do to a 700 R4 to beef it up a little bit. I'm not a transmission expert, but here's what I would do. I would find a reputable performance shop, take it to them, do some shopping around, see who can give you a good price and who has good reputation that offers some kind of warranty. Take it to them and have them beef it up, because obviously you're going to have to, when you talk about beefing up a transmission, you're going to beef up everything, because when you make one component stronger, you have to strengthen the others as well, or it's going to find the next weak point. So I would take it to a reputable performance shop, have them fix it up.
Yeah, 700R4, probably one of those common transmissions out there, you know, for putting in race cars and stuff. So you can just Google search it too. You know,
Yeah.
700R4 improvements or upgrades. So then you can kind of go to, like when you go shop around, you kind of have a little bit of knowledge on your own end. And you know, you can kind of ask them like, hey, what are you guys going to be doing to it? You know, so you kind of know exactly what's going on. And yeah, just shop around, get different pricing. Like a lot of times they get these aftermarket parts that are kind of cheap, but you know, better than factory, and you can get it out for, you know, not too terribly expensive.
The internet is your friend when it comes to this type of stuff, so use it.
Always.
Jim DiCarlo sent us a message about his 98 Ranger. He said, I do not see that there are any isolators on my 98 Ranger. Are they just missing? I get a metal on metal vibration on bumpy roads and wonder if that may be the problem. Isolators?
Yeah, so I guess the where the springs go, like.
Oh,
Little
I know what
rubber
you're
pieces
talking
on the
about
end of
now,
the
like
springs.
on the leaf springs. Yeah, okay, I see what you're
Or
talking about.
this might be on the front. Is there coils on the front of these? Oh yeah, coil spring isolators.
Yeah,
Rear
yeah.
drive. Okay, yeah. So
Okay, yeah, he put it in the subject. I didn't see this. Yeah, he put he put the description of his problem in the subject line of the email. Okay, that makes more sense. Yeah, on a 98, I don't know how many miles are on it. He didn't say, but on a vehicle that old, 20 years old now, they're probably just missing. They probably worn out and fallen off. I would look around and see if you can find some replacement ones. It probably wouldn't be a bad idea while you're at it to just replace the entire spring, because sooner or later the spring's going to go as well.
yeah. It's probably old and rusted might break.
I love Rangers, so, and I still to this day wish I still had my 95.
They're pretty solid, that's for sure.
All right, this is the last question submitted via email, and then we'll go to some comment questions from you guys in the comments section. Have a little fun there. The psychotic puppy has a question about his 2012 Equinox. Yeah, that's definitely a psychotic vehicle too.
Solid.
Hi Dan, my mother has, it's not even his, my bad. My mother has a 2012 Chevy Equinox with a 2.4 liter Ecotec that has 175,000 miles on it, and it had the engine rebuilt, no surprise there, because of the timing system failure. It is now throwing a catalytic converter efficiency code. Would it be the CAT or an oxygen sensor? Also, when you stop from 60 miles per hour, it will shake like a bearing or warped rotors, but with no sound to them. Okay, first question there with the catalytic converter. It is most likely your catalytic converter. Yeah. You got an Equinox with 175,000 miles on it that had probably, if I were to guess, it probably burned a lot of oil before that engine was rebuilt because they had a lot of problems with those. So you probably contaminated the catalytic converter over time, and now it's not working anymore. That being said, it's probably not a bad idea to replace both your oxygen sensors with a new catalytic converter at that kind of miles. My guess would be the catalytic converter. Generally, when a catalytic converter code sets, it's a bad cat, not the oxygen sensors, because the oxygen sensors are what are responsible for telling the engine control module that the catalytic converter is no longer efficient. As far as the steering wheel shaking, as if there were warped rotors when stopping from 60, I think you hit it right. I think you hit it head on. Warped rotors are going to cause that problem. You step on the brakes and the wheel shakes like this. Again, high mileage, 175,000 miles. Your front rotors are probably warped. I would say that's definitely your problem.
Yeah, so exactly what he said too. You got to think. So there was actually an extended coverage release from GM on those catalytic converters. Did you know that?
Really? No, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, they ended up doing that. I think it only goes to like 120,000.
Okay.
And I assume it's because these things are known to have oil consumption problems and things like that. So when you topple that with high mileage, I'm surprised it actually went that long. So like I said, they had a coverage to 120. 100% is probably the converter. Yeah. But then, like you said, those oxygen sensors are probably going to rust and strip the threads out, trying to take them out anyway. So you might as well just bank on getting new ones.
I would plan on getting new ones because, like he said, when you try to take the old oxygen sensors out, the threads are going to probably strip out, and you're probably going to have to get new ones anyway. So count on a couple new oxygen sensors and a catalytic converter for that job. But I mean, you're talking about a 175,000 mile vehicle. If that original cat lasted that long, you'll be fine.
Yeah, you got some good money out of that cat.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's go to the comments section. I'm sure everyone has been waiting for us to answer some comment questions here. Okay. So go for the comments, guys. We're going to answer your comment questions starting now. Let's start with Kilman1971. Can I do a video diagnosing and cleaning the PCV port on an early Ecotec engine? This is becoming a common problem on these engines now with no info anywhere online. Well, I would imagine I could probably do one if I get my hands on one that needs that job done to it, sure. Yeah, if I get the opportunity to, you know me, I love making videos of my repairs. Okay. Here, let's have a GM guy take on this Ford question from Matt Alsack.
So Matt asks, what are your thoughts on the Ford 4.6 and 5.4 two-valve Tritons?
Have you seen the two-valve.
Yeah. So it says, have you seen, or where'd it go? Oh, have you seen any trucks with their spark plugs blown out? I personally, honestly, have not dealt with that problem.
Me neither. I don't know how I haven't. I still haven't seen one yet, but I know they happen.
So yeah, I mean, I've heard of. I got the 4.6. I actually have a Mustang 2-valve, and here comes the hate. 4.6
Crowd magnet.
Yeah, right, exactly. I've never had a problem with the spark plugs. And people say even in the Mustangs it's not a problem, but I know people that have had spark plugs that are backing out, like about to blow out.
I think where a lot of this comes from is in the 4.6 and the 5.4. Ford put those engines in some extreme applications. I mean, to this day, Ford's V10 6.8 liter engine is used in a lot of motorhome chassis. Their 5.4 V8 was put in a lot of the F250s and F350s, and the 4.6 was used in the Crown Vic, police interceptors, stuff like that. So these engines were used in a lot of high load, extended, large load intervals, and I think that kind of contributed to this problem. But I haven't, me personally either, I haven't seen any trucks with the spark plugs blown out. But I've heard about the problem. I've heard about it a lot. I have yet to see it happen. We got a 97 Grand Marquis that you guys know about, and I still haven't seen that thing shoot any plugs out either. But now I'm going to see it because I just jinxed myself.
Yeah, exactly. But overall reliability, though, the 4.6, 5.4 valves, pretty decent, or?
Yeah, they're definitely better than the 3 valves, for absolutely sure. Because the 3 valve 5.4 is what had all the timing chain component problems and oil pressure issues. Stay away from those. I have seen the V10s and the 5.4 and 4.6 two valve V8s run a long time. Peace. But yeah, if it's a 2 valve engine, you should be fine. They didn't have near as many problems as the 3 valves did. Marco Dragon 1225. I'm looking at a Toyota Highlander with the V6 towing package. Any problems? No, it's a Toyota. They don't have problems.
Yeah, it's impossible for them to break. It defies the laws of physics if they break.
I mean, I don't know what year you're looking at, but if you're looking at a new one, I wouldn't worry about it because they're great vehicles. If you're looking at a used one, as always, take it to a mechanic and have a mechanic look at it and give you his opinion. And if you want to go to another one, you can even go to another mechanic and have him look at it as well. But check it over before you buy it. But Toyotas are that's really the only thing Toyota's known for is their reliability. They can't seem to get the edge on Honda when it comes to Consumer Reports. Consumer Reports always favors Honda over Toyota, but Toyota always comes back with their reputation for reliability.
I think we missed a bunch at the top.
We did. We'll go back and get those later if we've got time, but there's no way we can answer all these. Shit, I'm supposed to say that.
Oh, whoops.
I'm
Sorry.
I'm gonna get mad.
Just kidding. We just started at the top.
But no, seriously, if you guys have any questions, you can start submitting them in the comment section now as we're working on
Start
that.
over.
Oh, here, Chevy guy. Go for that one.
Which one we got?
From Joe Shearer about his 07 Silverado.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, Joe asks, what could cause a 2000 Chevy Silverado 5.3 with the DOD, which is displacement on demand, where they cut off 4 cylinders, to detonate on pump gas? 93 works best, but still detonated at high load. So.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Interesting question, and because my 02 even kind of does that a little bit too. It'll detonate.
My dad's 98. The 5.7 does the exact same thing. Detonates around 4,000 to 5,000 RPM.
So all I can say is hashtag race car probs or race truck probs. No, but I think it's probably what a lot of it is in reality is there's probably a little bit of carbon buildup on the top of the pistons.
Yeah.
The 07s and up, notorious for oil consumption problems. So that might also contribute, to the top of the, to the carbon buildup. Could be having a, what would I guess they would call like a high compression problem. So where you're, anytime you have carbon or oil or anything built up on top of the inside of a combustion chamber, you're going to increase the compression in that engine, even though it's just a little bit. But
because
sometimes that's all it needs.
You've got less volume, or you've got the same volume but less space, so it's a higher compression ratio and it's going to detonate earlier.
Yeah,
makes sense.
More than likely.
I agree with Steve. Clean the top of the engine, clean the valves. Run some cleaner through there, and it may help. I can't guarantee it's going to fix it completely, but it will probably at least help.
Seems to be sort of a characteristic with it, so.
My socks hurt. Why do people get these names?
My socks hurt too.
Yeah, they're getting kind of painful. I've been standing on them all day. I guess they do kind of hurt. What exactly is a slipping transmission? A slipping transmission is when you put it in reverse or drive, you hit the gas, and the RPMs rev all the way up to the red line, and nothing happens. That's an extreme scenario. A slipping transmission could also be a shudder. A lot of times when you have a torque converter that's slipping, people can confuse it for a transmission slipping. What it is technically, though, is it's a wet clutch system that isn't holding. The clutches are sitting in there and they're slipping. Instead of locking together, they're slipping. And most of the time it's caused by low fluid or overheated fluid. Okay, Parker Jessen has a 2012 F-150. He says the service advanced track light comes on for a few starts and then it won't come on again for a few thousand miles. What is going on? Golly, if if it's not coming on again for a few thousand miles,
Right.
either you drive that truck a lot and you put a ton of miles on that thing, or it's an extremely isolated issue that could be related to a battery problem. If you've got a battery that's starting to go dead and causing a low voltage condition when you're starting it, after it's set for a while, that could cause those kind of codes to set. I would check your battery first. Have your battery tested. Alrighty. Camper Mike said he had a 2013 GMC with AFM junk. Traded it for a Tundra, and the Tundra's great. Yes, Toyota reliability.
Good job.
And I'm not even a Toyota fan, but I'm not going to lie when it comes to
Can't
their
dock 'em.
reliability claims. All right. Mike Greer asks, have you worked on any Chevy Equinoxes, and if so, how was getting to the fuel filter or the oil drain plug? Well, it depends on what engine you have and what body style you have. If you have the newer body styles, not the newest, but the newer ones that had the V6 engine in them, they put those oil filters right next to the glowing red hot catalytic converter. And we dealt with this all the time at the dealer when we were lube techs, when we first started out. Customers would come in, want their oil changed right away, and you're reaching down. You're literally like an inch or so away from the catalytic converter while you try to take the oil filter off. It kind of sucks.
Yeah, it hurts. It hurts.
So a good pair of welding gloves will really help with that.
Big gloves.
But getting to the drain plugs is no problem. And the fuel filters, this is if they even have fuel filters. A lot of the newer models don't even have the fuel filters on the inline fuel systems. The fuel filter is inside the fuel tank. And unless you feel like dropping the fuel tank out to get to it, you're not replacing that fuel filter.
And Levi, we did talk about your 700 R4.
Okay, yeah, that's in the video. You can rewind and see it there if you'd like. Oh, here we go. Jonathan Iverson has a 98 Tahoe with a 5.7, 158,000 miles. Nice, not too bad. When accelerating, he can hear a clicking coming from the left side of the engine and it idles rough, and when idling, it sometimes throws a misfire code. Ideas? This is interesting because my dad's 98 Silverado with 250,000 miles on it is doing the exact same thing. We've replaced all the ignition components. We still haven't fixed it. It misfires when it's under load, but it idles fine. My suggestion would be replace the ignition coil, distributor cap, rotor, spark plugs, and wires. Do all of them, even if the parts may still be good, because these parts are so cheap and easy to get to. That way you've ruled out everything on the ignition side of the vehicle. Wasn't there also, didn't some of those have the spider injection systems, or was that on older models?
I think they did, yeah.
Okay, I don't know.
5.7 still had that.
I don't see how that would cause the clicking sound. If you have a clicking sound, the other thing I would check is your gaskets between the manifold and the catalytic converter. You might have a bad gasket there. I have seen that happen on the 98 Chevrolets.
Any problem with broken exhaust bolts on those?
I haven't had the manifolds off of that truck, so I can't say for sure, but being a 1998, I would plan on it.
Right.
I would play it safe and plan on it, because those things can be extremely frustrating when they stick and get broken. Are there any other issues with the 5.7? Not really.
Gasket stuff when it gets
Lower
old.
intake manifold gaskets, which are easy to replace. There's really no other common problems with that engine. It's a really, really good engine.
Yeah, just leaks and stuff. Water pump gaskets will leak, oil pan gaskets. Just that's not the engine itself though. It's just a characteristic of a gasket getting old and shrinking up.
Yep. And I will say that the 98s were actually sealed up pretty well. If you have an oil leak on a 98 with a 5.7, check your oil cooler lines first, because those are the first things to start leaking on those. Kilman 1971 asked, are there problems with the NOx sensors on the LS series engines? Also, GM deleted the rear stream tube vent hoses on later engines, so they think about adding these back to the cooling system. It looks like he was actually replying to someone here. I don't know. Are there NOx sensor problems? I've thought about that.
Like I know with the 5.3, notorious for them. You know, if you got a code for a NOx sensor, first thing you do is just replace the sensors on the harnesses.
Right.
Sort of a common thing. But LS series, like LS1, LS2s, all those, not sure really.
Typically, they'll throw a code if they go bad, but that's not to say that they could give the computer false readings.
Yeah, it's pretty simple fix. I mean, you can pull the intake, but
yeah, it's pretty basic. Apple fan, what kind of cars do you work on? I work on pretty much everything. What about you?
Pretty much the same. I work on what people drive. You know,
Yeah.
like my friends and family, they're just like, whenever they got that brakes, they're like, hey.
Right.
You know, so, except,
All right. The Reaper says, I have a friend with a 2015 Silverado 5.3 and he didn't turn the truck on for a week and the battery went dead. He got a replacement and the truck is a crank no start. The anti-theft light isn't on. A 2015, that's a pretty new truck as well.
yeah. So,
Okay. So my guess, first off, would be if the battery went dead and then when he got a replacement battery, the truck is a crank no start now. If the anti-theft light isn't on, man, that's a good question. It could be a lot of things. First things first I would do is check for codes. Coincidentally, we're replacing a PCM in a 2010 Silverado after this live stream here that had a similar problem. But it would start up and then stall immediately. Could it be a PCM? It could. Could it be a fuel pump that went bad randomly? It could as well. There's a lot of things it could be. I would try some starting fluid while you're cranking it and isolate if it's a fuel or an ignition problem.
yeah, just try to get a standard procedure. You know, got a problem, check for codes, check the spark, check for fuel, try that trick.
Right.
Kind of go from there.
How do we feel about German cars? I personally wouldn't buy them, but I have respect for them as well in the areas that they shine, such as Volkswagen and their diesels when they're not cheating on emissions. But they're all right cars. They're just a pain to work on. All right, let's find another question here. Here's another GM question. Joshua has a 1996 Tahoe with a 4L60E. Sometimes it likes to start off in second gear and doesn't downshift on the highway. After shutting it off and turning it back on, it fixes itself. Any suggestions? Okay, so if you shut it off and turn it back on and it fixes itself, that tells me that it's probably going into a fail-safe mode for some reason. More than likely, you've just got a worn-out transmission and it's time for a rebuilt one. Yeah. Or a rebuild on the one that you have there. That would be my guess. I don't know how many miles are on it, but I would start off with a reman transmission. That'll probably fix your problem. Okay, AJ's Mowing Service asked, what's up, Dan? Started watching your videos probably 5 to 7 years ago. My favorite video when I was younger was probably the mechanics. Oh, this isn't a question. My bad. I was wondering if someone would bring this video up sometime. I made that video years and years ago with the intention of, I'm going to make this video that's going to go really viral. I'm going to make millions of views and all this stuff. And never did. It just kind of sat there spinning its wheels with like 10, 15,000 views. I don't know where it's at right now, but that video was a lot of fun to make. I haven't really done anything like that since, but I would definitely like to do something like that again here soon. It was a lot of fun to make. It was some good laughs. Kind of cheesy and corny in some ways, but hey, that's what made it fun. Have you seen that video?
I don't know. It doesn't ring any bells.
That was the one where I cut the... I'm gonna put a link to this video in the description. That was where I cut bread with like a chainsaw.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like a miter saw, and then used a jigsaw to cut cheese.
That's
used
awesome.
A power washer to wash the lettuce and stuff like that. I made these horrendous looking bologna sandwiches, and I fried the bologna with an oxyacetylene torch. The Cutting Torch face.
Really? I
Yeah.
can't believe it doesn't have more views. That sounds hilarious.
I
haven't
know,
seen
right?
that one yet.
Yeah, Parker said it's at 10,000 views right now. So yeah, that doesn't surprise me. It never took off, but it was still fun to make. Maybe now that I got more subscribers, if we make another one, it'll
Do it
really
again,
take
yeah.
off. Yeah, it's just another one of those videos that just kind of sat there as fun to look back on. There are some videos that I've put up and I've taken down for various reasons, and there's some that I just leave up. Like my very, very first video ever, I'm going to feature in my 10 years on YouTube video, which I'm going to make around, I think it's May of this year. And I kid you not, the first video, it's so embarrassing, it's so stupid, but I left it up because it's my first video. I put a load of rock in the bucket of the Kubota tractor, went downhill. Because it's a hydrostatic transmission, you can immediately hit the reverse pedal and spin the wheels backwards. And I posted the video on YouTube and titled the video, Kubota Tractor Spins Tires on Asphalt. I'm dead serious. That was my first video ever. Like I said, I left it up there just because it was my first video. So, all right, we've got a couple more messages here. I'm going to go back to my email and my Facebook page and answer some questions there, and then we're going to wrap up the live stream for today. Let's go to let's see. Braden Schwab. He said, I love watching your videos, learning something new every time. I'm glad to hear that. What part of St. Louis am I from? Well, I recently moved out of the St. Louis area. I'm kind of more in the St. Charles area now. I used to be kind of right along the border of St. Louis and St. Charles County on the east side of the river, but I've moved since then into St. Charles. And I don't work on fans' vehicles. The reason being is because it's a liability issue. You're not the only one, by the way, who's asked this. I've had multiple people who have found my fan page or asked questions in the comments, kind of figured out where I'm from and have asked about that. The reason I don't is because I'm not an insured mechanic, so to speak, with my own shop here. So as a result, I can't just go working on anyone's vehicles. I work on my own vehicles, my family's vehicles, and very close friends' vehicles, simply for a liability reason. The last thing I want to have happen is something go wrong on somebody's vehicle and it turn into a lawsuit. It would get messy. So for that reason, not that I doubt you, Braden, or question you or don't trust you or anything, but I have to blanket it, and I have to this is just something I have to apply to everyone, that I have to get to know you personally and trust you personally before I will work on your vehicle. That's just my policy. But I'm more than happy to help you here on Facebook and YouTube and answer your questions and keep making videos. So I hope you understand. I'm sure people understand where I'm coming from there. But anyway, that's my take on it. Maybe Steve will. I don't know.
Nope.
No. There's so much work out there to do. It's not even funny. I understand why people are out there looking for people to help with their vehicles.
Nothing personal, just business professionalism.
Yeah. Okay. John Roma has a question about his. Let's see, which one came first? It looks like there's several of them. A couple questions here. He's got a 2006 Fusion, and lately he's been having issues with the transmission. The shop said it had to be rebuilt. As they got 2 more codes in the P0766, and they told him changing the transmission fluid/filters or the solenoids will not help the problem. He wanted to just change the fluid and filter and the solenoid to see if it fixes it. He's using it for local driving. It's an 06. I don't know how many miles are on it, so it's a 12-year-old car. It could very well be the transmission needs to be rebuilt. But as always, if you're feeling up to the task, start with doing some work yourself.
100%.
Take the pan off, replace the solenoid, the fluid, the filter. You may get another 30,000 miles out of it, and you may want to sell it too. But that's what I would start with, because you're going to spend thousands of dollars to have the transmission overhauled or rebuilt or put a remanufactured one in. That's what I would do there. We have, let's see. Oh, the AAA dude sent us another message here via email. And so we talked about the problem that he had with his F550. And he wants to know how can he fix it. He said the dealer can't, and I'm a AAA tow truck driver subcontractor. Well, I mean, I would go to your manager.
Yeah, right.
I would, if you can, get a dash cam. I literally, take a look at this, guys. I just picked up this dash cam for 15 bucks. And it's really just going to show you how technology has gotten to the point where things like a dash cam that might have cost hundreds of dollars a few years ago, you can pick one up for $15. What I would do is mount it to the windshield of your truck. It's got a little suction cup. Next time the event happens, save the video and then go to your manager and say, hey, something's got to be done about this truck. It's dangerous to drive. Now, I'm not in the truck with you. I can't verify for 100% sure that that's actually happening. But if you are indeed having that problem, this is where I would start with. Go get yourself one of these $15 dash cams. I picked this one up at Walmart last week. You can't go wrong. 15 bucks. I mean, that's why I bought it, not because I actually needed it, but I wanted to try it to see how good they were. Okay. We got one more question here, and then we're gonna wrap up the live stream for today after we answer. Well, let's make it 2 more questions. Let's answer Devin's question on Facebook first. He said his mother has a problem with the Subaru Impreza PZE where one of the oil valves or something went bad and she was stuck on the highway. Is this a common or a one-off? Boy, I don't know that much about Subarus, honestly. It's very possible. The first thing that I would do is check the condition of the oil. If she's gone a long time without changing the oil on that vehicle, it could very well have caused a problem on that, as those oil valves are very sensitive to the oil condition. I mean, how many timing problems have we fixed on GM vehicles just by doing an oil change?
Yeah, first step.
That is the first step that they tell you to do, is if you have a timing problem in a modern GM engine, and this was back in our dealer days at the Chevrolet dealer, was check the oil level and condition. And we fixed so many problems by doing an oil change and never came back.
Yep.
All right, last question of the day. Duramax 66. Well, there's a lot of those out there, but we'll go for this question in particular. Mm-hmm. Hasn't GM made like, how many millions of those diesels have they? Well, I don't even know. Is it a Isuzu still? I know GM redesigned it. Is it now GM's engine?
I believe it's still a Isuzu.
Okay.
And I don't think anything's changed much on it. I mean, I know they've said, they made changes to it, but it's still the Duramax 66 that it was in the early 2000s, you know.
Meanwhile, here's Ford going 7.3, 6.0, 6.4, 6.7. Duramax is just like, yep, I think we found our sweet spot. We're just going to keep it. Right. I do like the new Power Strokes, though. I've worked on them, and they are remarkably easy to work on once you get them apart because of the way they're designed. But I got to hand it to the 6.6 Duramax for just being a legendary diesel engine that's going to go down in history. Yeah. But he wants to know what we think of the 4.3 liter Vortec engine. Well, they're still making it, aren't they? I think they're still building it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's still around.
I know they're using direct injection on it and variable valve timing to get better fuel mileage, but it's a rock solid engine. The only problems with those things were oil leaks and oil consumption, and because of that, people who didn't keep an eye on their engine oil level, the oil would run low, and then of course it would start to damage the engine from the inside out. If you have one of those, they can run forever as long as you keep an eye on your engine oil. Change it every 3,000. I know that may be excessive, but that's what I recommend in order to keep those engines running forever. The filters are cheap. It takes basic 5W30 oil if you've got an older vehicle, and they can run a long, long time. They're great. I know they had some spider injection problems on the earlier models, but besides that, that's really all. So
yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys very much for tuning in again to our to our live stream here. Again, this friend of mine, his name is Steve. He's also running a YouTube channel. He's around the 300 subscriber marker. So he's kind of doing what I did when I first started up, just making little random videos here and there. But tell us about what you're going to start doing here in the future. Some people might be interested.
Yeah, guys. So I've been on YouTube for probably like 5 or 6 years now, and it's mainly just been a place to throw some videos of us goofing off or something, or just having fun. If you want to head over and check my channel out, just excuse the annoyingness of me and how I used to be. So, yeah, I haven't really shared anything like in the past 2 years, other than like just some exhaust videos, of my truck and the car. But yeah, really, I got a lot going on right now. Like I'm still in school. I'm getting my master's degree in business, and I'm starting to share just my last 3 months or so, of school. Just kind of going to show the struggles and kind of what I'm going through, and just document the whole thing. In case anybody out there is going through something like that. We can kind of go together, and kind of, share the experience, and then eventually I'm gonna start branching out to different things. Like I have a lot of interests. I'm into like fitness and health, and I'm also getting into kind of an affiliate marketing type business setup where I'm gonna be going into home audio systems. So if anybody's interested in that, I'm gonna have a lot of research posted about that and review videos for you guys. And really, that's it. So it's just gonna be kind of general different things. I'm gonna try to post some automotive type things too, since I'm really still passionate about that. And yeah, but just a broad.
I'll put a link to Steven's channel in the description if any of you guys are interested. Again, we go back quite a few years. We started working together at the Chevrolet dealer. Oh gosh, was that in 2012? I think it was. Okay, so we've known each other since then. We worked together for a few years, and then during kind of the slow time for GM in the shop, he was laid off, and at that point I decided, okay, it's not worth working here anymore.
Yeah.
But we're still both in the automotive field now. We have way different jobs than we did 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
But we really love sharing our mechanical knowledge with you guys, and I would love to have Steve back on the show again. But for now, we're going to end the live stream here, and we're going to go outside and replace the PCM on a 2010 Chevrolet Silverado. We got some GM equipment we're going to use, and I think you guys might enjoy this little video, so stay tuned. Oh,
7 degrees.
and last but not least, if you guys have watched all the way to the very end here, and you're still watching right now, some of you pointed out, this was so embarrassing for me, some of you pointed out that I had a duplicate video upload recently about the 2002 Excursion, and it was. I don't know how that happened. I uploaded the video, and then I titled it and everything, and then people started commenting, oh, this is a duplicate upload, deja vu, and
Yeah, right.
I was like, what is going on? And then it hit me that I had already uploaded the video a while ago. So I dug into the issue, and it turns out that I accidentally misplaced the video file into my to be uploaded folder on my computer. It got uploaded to YouTube, and then I published it. And so for those thinking that it was intentional, I'm trying to get more views, that was not the case. The video only had 1 dislike, but I have since taken that video back down because I don't want to be known for someone who's just uploading videos twice in an attempt to get more views. But anyway, wanted to clarify that to you guys who have stayed with us during this whole time. Thank you very much for joining our live stream. I appreciate your comments and your feedback. We'll see you guys next week, hopefully. I think we're going to do another one Saturday. But for now, we're going to go outside and replace the PCM on a 2010 Silverado. So let's get going.
Get at it.
I like the way your chair squeaks.
Yeah.
Kind of like GM suspension.
Oh, right. Yeah. Or.
Meanwhile, me and my Clyde Ford suspension over here,
Yeah, well,
quality.
this is just one that was donated to me.
Yeah.
So. Ford owner
Better just
gave it to me.
Hey, if it's free, can't complain, right?